Row over the amount of money that the government has given the Health Service Executive to run healthcare services in Ireland in 2024 is growing. Coalition ministers are privately furious at the HSE Chief Executive Bernard Gloster after he criticised the amount of money that had been given to the health service for 2024. They're also angry over his briefing of opposition TDs in recent weeks. At the weekend, Bernard Gloster told RTE that next year's health budget is, quote, not adequate for all current costs. These comments have angered ministers who believe he should not be using the media to lobby for extra money for healthcare services. There is also growing concern within government about the level of briefings that Bernard Gloster is providing to the Sinn Féin health spokesperson David Cullinane and other opposition TDs in recent weeks. The Fianna Fáil Senator Malcolm Byrne has said that Bernard Gloster had allowed himself to be, quote, politicised over funding for disability services in Wexford. This followed a meeting that Bernard Gloster held with local independent TD Verona Murphy during the summer. Bernard Gloster has said that the HSE service plan will include a built-in deficit. That's because he believes its €22.5 billion budget for 2024 is not sufficient to meet the expected demand on healthcare services next year. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly had sought around €2 billion in extra funding for health services in 2024, but he was only allocated 800 million by the Public Expenditure Minister Paschal Donohoe. This decision was ultimately approved by the entire cabinet, including Stephen Donnelly. However, Stephen Donnelly and Bernard Gloster have both publicly indicated since then that the health service, which is already running a deficit that is expected to top €1.1 billion this year, will be in deficit next year as well. This is due to pressures on acute hospitals with increased presentations of emergency departments by an increasingly aging population and the impact of inflation on the cost of healthcare. Bernard Gloster last week announced that the HSE is to widen a freeze on recruitment that will include junior doctors, healthcare assistants, home helps, and other staff. It is understood that Stephen Donnelly does not share the concerns of his cabinet colleagues and others across government about Bernard Gloster's public comments in recent days. But privately, there are strong concerns amongst government ministers and senior coalition figures about Bernard Gloster's public interventions in relation to the health budget. One senior minister has told the Irish Independent that Mr Gloster's comments towards he had been, quote, extraordinarily unhelpful. A second senior minister said, it's like Tony O'Brien is back in town, except more overt. This is a reference to the former Health Service Executive Director General Tony O'Brien. He had a strained relationship with former Health Minister Simon Harris. He resigned in 2018 and later described Mr Harris as a frightened little boy. A third minister said that Mr Gloster's interventions in recent days had caused huge unease in government. Disturbingly so, they added. In response to the Irish Independent story, a spokesperson for the HSE said, we regularly advise the government on operational impact of policy. As a public servant, the chief executive regularly responds to requests for factual information from elected representatives.